It was a cold January morning in Willow Creek, a quiet town nestled deep in the forests of Oregon. Life here moved at a slower pace. The town had just over 3,000 residents, and everyone knew everyone. It was the kind of place where the biggest excitement was the high school football game on Friday nights. That morning seemed no different from any other. By noon, everything changed. The first sign was the fog. Thick and heavy, it rolled down from the mountains faster than anyone had ever seen. At first, it seemed normal. Fog was common in the area during winter, but this was different. By 1 o'clock, the entire town was blanketed in a dense, gray mist so thick you could barely see a few feet ahead. "It was suffocating," said Angela Monroe, a local florist. "I tried to keep the shop open, but it felt like the fog was pressing against the windows. Most people assumed it was just a strange weather event." By mid-afternoon, things took a darker turn. The first disappearance happened around 2 o'clock. Lisa Connolly, a waitress at the town diner, went outside to take out the trash. She never came back. Her co-worker Earl went to check on her. "I thought she might have slipped on the ice or something." But there was nothing. No footprints. No sign she had ever been there. Within hours, more people vanished. A jogger on the edge of town. A father and son playing catch in their backyard. A mail carrier on her afternoon route. Each time it was the same story. One moment, they were there. The next, gone. By sunset, the entire town was in a state of panic. People locked their doors and windows, trying to stay safe. But the fog didn't seem to care. It seeped through every crack, filling homes and streets with an eerie silence. The sheriff's office was overwhelmed with calls. Sheriff Dale Harding had been in law enforcement for over 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "People don't just vanish into thin air," he told reporters later. "It's like the fog swallowed them." By the next morning, when the fog finally lifted, 27 people were missing. News of the disappearances spread quickly. Reporters from all over the country descended on Willow Creek, dubbing the phenomenon the vanishing fog. Theories spread like wildfire. Meteorologists called it a unique weather anomaly, but their explanations were vague. Some pointed to the dense composition of the fog, noting unusual electromagnetic readings in the area. Paranormal investigators claimed it was connected to local legends about the haunted woods surrounding Willow Creek. For decades, there had been stories of people wandering into the forest and never coming back. But the most popular theory involved a government experiment gone wrong. Willow Creek was near an old military base that had been decommissioned years ago. Conspiracy theorists argued that the fog was part of some top-secret test. Whatever the truth, the people of Willow Creek were left in limbo. Missing posters lined every street, but no one expected them to bring answers. Families held candlelight vigils, praying for the safe return of their loved ones. For the families of the missing, the lack of answers was unbearable. Sarah Bell lost her husband Greg and their 7-year-old son Charlie on the same day. "I don't know how to grieve for them," she said. "How do you mourn someone when you don't even know what happened to them?" Sheriff Harding and his deputies searched the woods and surrounding areas for weeks. There was nothing to find. No tracks, no clothing, no signs of life. A week after the fog lifted, federal agents arrived. They were dressed in dark suits and moved with quiet efficiency, interviewing residents and taking samples from the area. They set up equipment to measure air quality, electromagnetic activity, and even seismic movements. The agents refused to answer questions, brushing off reporters with vague assurances that the investigation was ongoing. "We'll provide updates when we have them," said the lead agent, but days turned into weeks, and no updates came. Without answers, people began to fill in the blanks themselves. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Some claimed the fog was a portal to another dimension, pointing to stories of similar disappearances in other parts of the world. "It's not random," said Clara Hargrove, an investigative journalist who had been tracking the story. The electromagnetic anomalies detected in Willow Creek match patterns seen in other unexplained phenomena around the globe. Her articles went viral, fueling even wilder theories. Some suggested the fog was alive, a sentient force with its own agenda. Life in Willow Creek struggled to return to normal. Businesses reopened, but foot traffic was minimal. Parents kept their children close, and many residents refused to go out at night. "I don't think it's over," said Angela Monroe. "We all feel it. The fog might be gone, but something's still here." Even Sheriff Harding admitted he wasn't convinced the danger had passed. He had seen too much. "I've lived here my whole life," he said. "I thought I understood this place, but now I'm not so sure." The vanishing fog left Willow Creek scarred in ways that couldn't be measured. It wasn't just the people who disappeared. It was the town's sense of safety, its belief that the world made sense. And as the weeks passed, one question lingered in everyone's mind. What happens when the fog comes back? The vanishing fog of Willow Creek had left the nation stunned. News outlets reported on the eerie disappearances nonstop, and while experts scrambled for answers, a new wave of strange events began to unfold across the country, this time far from Willow Creek. It started in Pennsylvania. On a quiet night in the rural town of Mercer, residents noticed strange lights in the sky. At first, people thought it was just a plane or perhaps a meteor shower, but the lights didn't behave naturally. They moved in perfect synchrony, shifting in sharp, deliberate patterns. "It wasn't random," said Tom Henson, a retired Air Force pilot who lived in Mercer. "These lights were following a grid. It was like they were searching for something. The lights weren't the stars or meteors. They were drones. Small, silent, and eerily precise, the drones hovered just above the treetops, their sleek metallic bodies illuminated by pulsing red and white lights. At first, they seemed harmless, just an odd curiosity. Then the disappearances began again. The first incident happened on a remote stretch of farmland. A young couple driving home late at night vanished without a trace. Their car was discovered hours later, engines still running, doors wide open, but there was no sign of them. Witnesses claimed to have seen drones in the area just before the couple disappeared. Within days, similar reports emerged from other towns in Pennsylvania. A farmer tending his cattle went missing, leaving only his hat behind. A group of teenagers camping in the woods reported seeing a swarm of drones overhead, and when they turned around, one of their friends was gone. The disappearances spread quickly. In Ohio, a truck driver vanished from a rest stop, his rig idling in the middle of the highway. In Kentucky, a family of 3 disappeared from their porch, while neighbors watched drones circling their home. By the end of the month, sightings of drones had been reported in over a dozen states, from Colorado to Maine. The government remained silent. When reporters asked federal agencies about the drones, their responses were vague. "We are aware of the reports and are conducting investigations," was all anyone would say. The lack of information fueled wild speculation. Some believed the drones were part of a covert military operation. Others suggested they were controlled by foreign powers conducting surveillance. But the most chilling theory came from those who believed the drones were connected to the vanishing fog. Investigative journalist Clara Hargrove, who had been covering the Willow Creek incident from the beginning, pointed out that areas with high drone activity also showed unusual electromagnetic readings, similar to those recorded during the fog event. "These aren't coincidences," she said during a televised debate. "Something bigger is happening. The fog and the drones, they're connected." The mystery deepened when a video surfaced online. Captured by a security camera in an undisclosed location, the footage showed a man walking down an alley late at night. A single drone appeared overhead, its red light glowing faintly in the darkness. The man stopped, looking up as the drone hovered above him. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drone emitted a high-pitched hum, and the man collapsed. The video ended abruptly, but not before the drone extended a claw-like mechanism, gripping the man's unconscious body and lifting him into the air. The video went viral, sparking nationwide panic. Was it real or an elaborate hoax? If it was real, what were the drones doing with the people they captured? The sightings grew more frequent. In major cities like Chicago and New York, commuters reported seeing drones hovering near high-rise buildings, their lights casting eerie shadows on the streets below. In small towns, residents formed patrols, armed with flashlights and makeshift weapons, but the drones always moved faster than anyone could react. One particularly chilling incident occurred in Atlanta, where a swarm of drones descended into a subway station during rush hour. Security cameras captured the chaos as people screamed and fled, but when first responders arrived, the platform was empty. The disappearances seemed random. Men, women, children, people from all walks of life. The only common factor was the drones. For weeks, there were no survivors, no one to tell what happened to the people taken. Then, stories began to emerge of those who had returned. In a small town in Kansas, a man claimed to have seen his missing brother in a grocery store. "He was just standing there," the man said. "But when I called out to him, he didn't respond. He just turned and walked away." Others reported similar encounters, people they recognized from missing persons reports, wandering aimlessly or standing still, staring into space. Those who tried to approach them said the returned individuals would simply vanish again, as if they were never there. As February came to a close, the country was on edge. Curfews were imposed in dozens of cities. People avoided going out at night, and children were kept indoors. Social media was flooded with videos and photos of drones, but no one had answers. Clara Hargrove issued a dire warning during a live stream that attracted millions of viewers. "If the drones are connected to the fog, we're dealing with something far beyond human understanding," she said. "And if we don't figure it out soon, none of us will be safe." Her words echoed the growing fear across the nation. As more people vanished and the hum of drones filled the night sky, one question remained unanswered. What do the drones want? By early March, the disappearances linked to the drones had become a nationwide crisis. Curfews were imposed in dozens of cities, and the skies were being monitored constantly. But just as the nation braced for what seemed like an invasion from above, the fog returned. It started in the small town of Silver Lake, Washington, a place not unlike Willow Creek. Residents woke up to find their streets and homes engulfed in the same thick, oppressive mist that had swallowed Willow Creek months earlier. The news spread quickly, and the parallels were impossible to ignore. This time, however, the fog didn't stay confined. Over the next week, reports of similar phenomena began appearing in towns and cities across the country. The fog would roll in suddenly, stay for hours, and then vanish without a trace, leaving behind stories of missing people and strange sightings. In Silver Lake, one resident managed to capture a chilling video before disappearing. The grainy footage showed the fog creeping through their home, tendrils of mist slithering under doors and through vents. A faint sound accompanied it, a low, droning hum that grew louder as the mist thickened. Before the video cut out, a single shadowy figure emerged from the fog, its form indistinct but humanoid. The figure reached for the camera, and the screen went black. The government's response was swift but secretive. Entire towns were evacuated overnight, their residents relocated to undisclosed locations. Highways were shut down, air travel was restricted, and the National Guard was deployed to enforce quarantines. For those left behind, life became a nightmare. The fog came and went without warning, and the disappearances increased. People began to report seeing figures within the fog, tall, shadowy shapes that moved with unnatural speed. One witness, a truck driver stranded on a closed highway in Montana, described what he saw. It wasn't just fog. There were things in it. They didn't walk. They glided like they were floating, and their eyes, they glowed. Not bright, but enough to see through the mist. His testimony, shared in a hastily filmed video, went viral before it was removed from every major platform. Journalist Clara Hargrove, who had been following the events since Willow Creek, published a chilling report linking the fog to the drones. "It's not random," she wrote. "Every area where the fog appears has reported drone activity weeks or even days before. The fog isn't natural, it's a mechanism. Something is controlling it." Her article detailed the eerie similarities between the drones and the shadowy figures seen within the fog. She speculated that the fog wasn't just an environmental phenomenon, but a tool used to obscure the movement of these entities. The report ended with a dire warning. Whatever this is, it's escalating. The fog isn't just taking people, it's preparing for something bigger. Then came the largest event yet. On March 15th, the fog descended on Chicago. Unlike the small towns it had previously targeted, this time it enveloped an entire metropolitan area. Millions of residents woke up to a city swallowed by mist. The first reports were of widespread panic. Cars were abandoned on highways, and people flooded emergency lines with calls about loved ones who had vanished. But within hours, the calls stopped. By noon, the city was silent. When the fog lifted the following day, Chicago was unrecognizable. Entire neighborhoods were empty, their homes left as if the occupants had vanished mid-action. Dinner plates sat untouched on tables. Phones lay on counters, still charging. A single message was found scrawled on the walls of multiple buildings in black, soot-like material. "We are here." The message sent shockwaves through the nation. The president addressed the country that evening, urging calm while promising swift action. But behind the scenes, the government was in chaos. Intelligence agencies admitted they still didn't understand the nature of the fog, the drones, or the entities within. Survivors from previous fog incidents began coming forward, but their accounts only deepened the mystery. Many described hearing whispers within the fog, disjointed phrases in languages they didn't recognize. Some claimed to have seen loved ones who had disappeared months ago, standing silently within the mist before vanishing again. One survivor, a young woman from Ohio, described her experience. "I saw my brother. He'd been missing for weeks. He didn't look at me. He just stood there, staring into the fog. When I tried to reach him, he disappeared like he was never there." Her account mirrored dozens of others, all describing the same eerie behavior. The returned individuals were always silent, emotionless, and fleeting. By the end of March, the fog had become a global phenomenon. Reports emerged from Europe, Asia, and South America. The pattern was the same: drones followed by fog, then mass disappearances. In the face of mounting terror, one question remained unanswered. What is the fog preparing for?